So let's think about a different aspect of reading the text, the stories of Jesus. Let's think about how people view Jesus and his stories in a global context. How do other people read that? So I have a little PowerPoint for that to help us with that thinking, and a little sample text for us from Mark chapter 5. So reading the story, the Bible story, in our particular case, the story of Jesus through the eyes of different peoples and cultures. What is that like? Sometimes I think we can get a very Western perspective, kind of restricted by how we've always read it in church history. But meanwhile, there's a big world out there, and people have viewed it in various ways. In fact, the story of Jesus plays out in a completely different part of the world. And we certainly don't own it just in one part of the world. We don't own it at all. It's God's story. So kind of like a testing case would be the story in Mark 5 that you have read, where Jesus cast out evil spirits into pigs. This would be in the side of the Sea of Galilee that you see here. It has kind of silted over and then overgrown over the years, but imagine that there is a steep drop off here at the time, and that's where this story plays. He's a little bit further up in there where there are graves. And so here is the story. Some of it falls away in our recording, but you have the PowerPoint there. And so remember, it says that they came, Jesus and the disciples, to the other side of the sea. It's called the country of the Gerasenes. And when he stepped out of the boat, Euthus, immediately a man out of the tombs with an unclean spirit met him. So it's very interesting that he lives in the tombs. For us, it may be kind of weird. Maybe for you, it's not. He lived among the tombs, and no one could restrain him anymore, even with a chain. So he normally had been restrained with shackles and a chain. But the chains he wrenched apart, and the shackles he broke into pieces. Very interesting. No one had the strength to subdue it. So night and day, among the tombs and the mountains, he was always howling, bruising himself with stones. And he recognizes Jesus. So when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran, he bowed himself down before, and he shouted at the top of his lungs, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" So the spiritual world recognized itself. "I adjure you by God, do not torment me." And so he had said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Then Jesus asked, "What's your name?" And he says, "My name is Legion, for we are many," like the association. And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. He doesn't want to go out. Remember, in antiquity, the people believed that evil spirits, demons lived in the wilderness. They didn't want to leave the area. They didn't want to go to the wilderness. And so on the hillside, there's a great herd of swine, pigs were feeding. So this is not as Jewish, right? And so the unclean spirits begged him and said, "Please send us into the swine, let us enter them." So Jesus gave them permission. And the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine. And then the herd, about 2,000 of them, rushed down the steep bank and went into the sea, that's that lake, and they drowned. So the swineherds ran off and told it, so that's the shepherds, if you will, told in the city, in the country. So people came and checked it out. Verse 15, they came to Jesus and saw the demoniac sitting there in his right mind, the very man who would have that. And so then they're not so sure what to do with it. They want him to leave and don't quite know what to do with it. So interesting story. So here's my point, right? How do people from around the world read the same story? So I'm from Europe, and of course there are spiritual realities in Europe and people that read it in certain ways. But I can tell you, and some of you may be like this, that if you have a very naturalistic outlook on life, you may look at this story and go, "Whoa, what is this? Is this mental illness? Is this perception of people? Maybe you, or the way you grew up, just don't believe in evil spirits or demons." Or same thing, growing up in Europe, maybe you have a deep appreciation for animals, and it's just baffling that Jesus would give permission for these beings to enter into these swine, and that these swine have to die in the lake. I mean, what kind of story is that, where just kind of frivolously, these animals suffer and die. That would be a big thing, especially where I'm from, where we actually have a political party for animal rights in the Netherlands. What if you're from other parts of the world? What if you're from other cultures, even within our bounds, where people really emphasize setting people free from oppression? You might be drawn to the part where the possessed person has shackles and breaks them. Maybe you see this as symbolic of God breaking people free from oppressors. So then Jesus is the one that frees people. I have a friend who's a scholar from Venezuela in Latin America, and that is absolutely the way that she reads these passages, and would say that this is paradigmatic. This is the way that it should be read, and sees this as an agenda for Christians to go out into the world and likewise, just like Jesus does here, to set oppressed people free. And that from then on, the message is you should do the same thing. So that's another way to read it. What if you're from an area of the world or a place here where there is scarcity of food? What if there is food insecurity? It's kind of hard to imagine that these 2,000 swine just are wasted. What if you're, instead of being upset over animals getting killed, what if you think this is a massive food source? I mean, you could have eaten all the swine, or you could have let them live and they have piglets. And you could have, for one, you could have sold them. So it's economic gain. People could have started a small business with that. Or this could have been a food source. I mean, this could have been anywhere around the world. So, maybe that gets your attention. Maybe this is the kind of place where you pick up on hints in the text. Maybe you're a person that's really text bound, and you notice that his name is Legion. Well, this goes to people in Rome who know about legions, who are that's part of like the Roman army. So maybe you're more like the text sort of person. So when we come from different experiences in life, that may be something here. Remember how it talks in verse 5 about a person bruising himself with stones, self-harm. Maybe you come from a place where you deal with self-harm, or people who deal with self-harm. And so how does that impact how you read the story? So when we read this with people who come from different walks of life, who come from different parts of the globe, who come from different communities, I think we get a bigger appreciation for these stories and what might be there. And I encourage you to do so.